been a while since we've had a break like this. Generally, Tabata only goes on break whenever Black Clover, or rather, whenever the magazine itself is on break. He generally works pretty frequently and just decides to constantly just funnel like chapters out like a madman. But he's on break next week, and I genuinely am happy that it's this next one because it was early chapters because of the holiday that's coming up in Japan. I don't know which holiday it is, but that means that Tabata, instead of getting like a regular week, he'll get a little bit extra because it's 9 days in the next chapter, and then obviously for the next issues of Shonen Jump to come out. And, one extra week onto that, instead of 14-day gap, it is a 16-day gap, which means you'll get a little bit extra recovery time, a little bit more time to just to relax, get some extra rest, and get back into probably a really good spot. Because this was it was a little bit of a short chapter, not the same as a regular one, because we did get multiple wider spreads with Noel. Obviously the first one, it's definitely a short chapter though, but I think it was made, to me it feels like it was made kind of to add enough content into the end of an episode when they get there in the anime. But I mean, I'm fine with it. We got a lot of lore and general world building in this chapter, and I would rather it be a short chapter where we get a lot of stuff like this than get a regular sized chapter and it be mostly just kind of character conversation without any large scale growth or development. Big info chapters are really good. I mean, in general, you're getting a lot of just potential for the future that isn't just characters training, which is still good, but all around just wide scale info dropped on us is always really fun. So right now, they wake up and they're at a small elf village, and they say Elysia. It's like a small secluded area in a strong magic region that is deep within the Heart Kingdom. So it's just way north between the Heart and the Spade, inside of that gap, and from there they end up seeing these two elf children, and these are the ones that we actually saw way back at the end of the Elf Resurrection arc when when William made William and Patri, I believe, made the big light tree, and we saw the elves, these two elf children just present, and a lot of people have been wondering for a long time when exactly we were going to see them, because it was a very subtle drop in that chapter. It wasn't like, oh yeah, this big hard focus. It was a very small, easy to miss thing. The first time I read it, I didn't notice, and then I went back and read it, and I'm like, what's these kids' ears? And then I realized these were elf children. So, that is a easily missed thing. I'm sure more people paid more attention to that scene. I was more intrigued with the stuff that was going on on the grander scale, that I didn't look and see, oh yeah, look at the kid's ear. But it's also a small panel. Unless you're looking at that and then notice that small piece next to his ear, it's easy to miss. But people have known for a while, and it was really good just to get a very, very quick foreshadowing like that, because it just makes scenes like this better for people that noticed, as well as, even if you did notice first and then you found out from somebody else, it's something that the community was able to really kind of gather around and put out there. So even if you didn't see it the first time, interacting with people in the fandom helped you, figure something out and see something that was, set up for the future. Always good. It's always good to have stuff that is for the community, even though the Black Clover community can get a little rowdy and a little bit hostile sometimes towards each other. But essentially the explanation is that these elves are the descendants of the royal family of the Clover Kingdom and Lick, so Tedia. And I was a little bit confused on that, because one thing I was wondering about it is whether or not the I was really wondering whether or not the elves in Black Clover have the same lifespan as like elves generally do in fiction, or in like set. Oh, they're just gonna be, maybe they'll just be the same aging process as humans. I don't know actually if that's been stated. That's definitely something that I haven't really looked a lot at in just the process of general just thinking about the lifespan of the elves, because it's never been a concern in the series, at least for me up until this point, because I was wondering like, oh, is there just going to be a handful of elves that have just been existing out here, or is this directly one of the children from Tedia that lived? Because the explanation that we saw is that Tedia wasn't fully dead when Sekri, found her and took the magic stones. That she had twins and one of them was still alive. So that is just a very much a strange thing, and it seems to be more that what had happened, my guess, because it seems to be the way. It doesn't look like it's fully out, like raw explained, but I'm given the belief that what had happened was because Sekri sealed her wounds, that she was able to survive in general. She didn't, that Tedia didn't die, and then she went and raised her child that lived, through time, just raised her kid and did what she needed to do. And then I'm guessing that this was, a couple other elves hopefully will meet after this chapter. Maybe Tabata didn't really want to spend time introducing him, because of the shorter chapter, he was probably a lot more tired. And just the bloodline of Licht survived maybe through one this other elf, which again is really cool, or with this other elf village, which very interested to see where that goes. And there's the explanation that when the elves went to go save these people, obviously, Noelle and crew, that they were informed by Dryad, the guardian of Elysia, which is this big tree. And I really do like the connection with the trees and the elves and stuff. Obviously it's not the same thing, but William, he's sort of in relation, relation adjacent to a tree, kind of, or with an elf to, obviously Patri, and the big ghost tree that they made in combo. But it essentially gave them a premonition or some form of divine revelation to where they would go save them. And I did actually really like this part, because it wasn't like that they rushed in and went and helped them. They did help them after, but they weren't the ones to stop the explosions that Vonica made. It like the characters were able to blast it off and defend themselves against it, and afterwards probably just passed out. And honestly, like looking at it, like looking back, Noelle being able to do it makes like sense perfectly fine with me, because Vonica even said that she should be strong enough in order to do it. Nothing said that like the explosion Vonica made was like, oh, this is one of my strongest attacks or something. It was just like playful to her. So them being able to withstand and fight off an attack that didn't really seem that much of a big deal for Vonica at all, it's fine. But the one thing I like looking at it, like Noelle doing it makes sense. Okay, Charmy, yeah. Leopold, yeah. Luck, yeah. Mimosa is actually the one that surprises me. Like her flower cannon is obviously like her big, like pretty much only offensive ability. But like I knew it's pretty much like, oh yeah, this big heavy damage pretty much sentry. It's not this like as useful as like most offensive spells, but it gives her something. I didn't think it would actually be able to, defend against one of these. Like hers is the one that surprised me. So I'm pretty hyped about that. I actually really like that, because out of the other four, like I said, I fully saw it as possible, and I'm always okay with it. But with Mimosa, like I said, very, very surprising. Also, one thing that I didn't notice and I didn't pay attention to until rereading it and then talking about it is, where's Gaja? Gaja, I don't think, like, he's not in this chapter at all. Like, I didn't even think about it until I looked at the spread of like the 5 people, and then I realized, like, went back and like, because usually just as I'm reading or reviewing it, I had the chapter open and I just kind of scroll through it, make sure I don't miss anything that I wanted to mention, and you know, if there's something happened that I was like, oh, it's my 100 on this one, my 50-50 on this, but I didn't even notice until like rereading it that where's Gaja? Because he was caught in one of the explosions, unless I'm wrong. But yeah, that one was really surprising. But so the fact that they were strong enough to survive was already really impressive for all of them. But Mimosa, damn man. Anyway, Noelle is clearly bothered. Like, she was not able to do anything after 6 months. That she wasn't able to do anything against Vonica, even with their combinational abilities and weakening Vonica. They still need to get stronger. Noelle is very determined. I like that she's training with the elves. I think it's really cool because this is setting up for each of the, the main trio of the series. You have Asta, Yuno, and Noelle. Each of them are going to be training different methods. Asta's going to be training his, devil powers. Noelle's going to be training with the elves. I'm curious to know what Yuno's going to get. Like, is Yuno just going to train with the captains? I'm hoping it's... I've heard people theorize like training with Jack. I think that'd be really cool because Jack's personality, obviously being or themed and origined off of Jack the Ripper, I think his would be like a really interesting way to kind of like warp Yuno's a little bit, because anybody can see Yuno's pissed. Yuno's not happy. He's angry. There's clearly a lot of frustration in him, and that's just going to keep building up and building up. Whereas Jack is clearly like a little bit crazy, but he seems much more kind of like able to control himself to a degree. But with Yuno, I imagine Yuno and all the stress and all the anger that he's got built up, kind of if he's training around someone like Jack, I feel like that personality that Jack has is gonna do some. It's going to do some molding onto Yuno and kind of like put him more down a darker path. Because I've already theorized this. I've already theorized that Yuno is just going to be getting more vicious, more malefic. Because the fact that, Tabata obviously, loves Berserk. He's mentioned it. He's mentioned that he wants Black Clover to kind of feel a little bit like the shonen version of Berserk. Shonen equivalent to Berserk. Obviously, it's not the same story. And if you've ever read Berserk and you know anything about Griffith, going down a darker pathway in order to, get revenge and get back William, it aligns a little bit with, the darker path that Griffith took. And I'd like to see that. I'm actually really interested in the idea of, like, a darker Yuno. And I really want to see how that goes. But with Noelle now that she's very determined to get stronger, her and everybody else there is, very pumped up. They're training with the elves, as well as in this this area with much more rich natural mana, is going to be really good for them. And now Patri says that he's going to help them get stronger, but also he's going to teach them ultimate magic. And again, I found it funny that was one of the things that people were complaining about initially about this chapter, is like there were people complaining about there being ultimate magic, and they're like, oh, it's just another thing, we just got true magic and runes and and stuff. And like people were pointing out like there were people obviously that paid attention to the series, that have paid way more attention to the series than I think most fans do. Not like most fans, but I think most just general readers and watchers probably don't do as much like analysis as people who either do videos or discuss it a lot on Twitter. So it's something that you could skip over because it's only mentioned, like, there's the part obviously, like, the thing that people mention is it was first mentioned, I think, in chapter 13 when they were explaining dungeons and how you can obtain ultimate magic. And then Licht used it when he, had the purified demon dweller sword and pulled, gathered mana from all the elves around, and then used the conquering Aeon slash on Zagrid. So I'm curious to know what ultimate magic is really going to do for them. And it's like, is it going to be like a similar thing where they have to link up and kind of do like a combo spell? Or is it going to be like, hey, if you're ever in a situation, you kind of have like this, like a limit break, just like where this big pour everything into one spell. Or maybe like you can affect the, mana in the area, like drastically and quickly pull it into you and then use like a big spell. Kind of like if you had a mana zone, but it was just like imagine that, you know, the shape of the monozone that you get, but it's just like instantly absorb that and then direct it and fire. Something like that, or just maybe it's an upgrade. Maybe it's like, oh, you can like take a spell and there's a way to upgrade it into an ultimate class version. I'm just imagining like Noelle with her Sea Dragon's Roar and it kind of being like Zatch Bell, like how he had Bao's like Kerriga, and then he was able to before he got any actual full upgrades, but like he used what was it? Oh my god, was it Zigerzum? And then how he could like use it and charge up an opponent, and then if he hit him with Bao's like Kerriga, that was charged, it would end up becoming like a bigger, more powerful, and like advanced version. Something like that for them, I think would be really cool. I'm very interested to see like how all like these guys all evolve. Out of them, though, the one that I'm most interested in is Leopold, because like Sekri already has, you know, she's arcane. Charmy is already like this weird wild card with her dual magic and being a half dwarf. Luck is already a prodigy. He's gonna get stronger. We've already seen like how talented he is, and how like well he's picked up on runes and stuff. Mimosa's advancement will be primarily in healing. She'll probably be able to get like maybe I'm imagining like a much bigger version of her plant sentry and then like multiple small ones or something. Like hers is gonna be very like straightforward, I think, with Mimosa's upgrades. And Noelle already has a lot of potential and a lot of setup. But when it comes to Leopold, I fully believe that Leopold is eventually gonna surpass Mereoleona and Fuegoleon. So I'm very interested in his journey much more than a lot of other characters, because where obviously I love like Noelle, you know, I love a lot of Black Clover's characters, but when it comes to like Leopold, he was a character that you would expect to have gotten way more spotlight throughout the series, and only recently got to get like up in like with the main cast and up in the front and able to kind of keep up, and I really like that, and I'm happy that Leopold is getting attention and is getting he is getting a position to climb the ladder, climb the both power level and relevancy ladder. And I'm hyped for that. I think Leopold's cool. I like him. I think he's a fun dude. Also, I like his post time skip design. I think he just looks good. Pretty cool dude. But anyway, where is Gacha? Anyway, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.